Hi, I'm Kevin Hill, and today I'm going to do a painting of birch trees, and maybe a little river or creek flowing through the middle. It's been a long time since I've done birch trees, so I'm really looking forward to it. If you're excited to see this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more painting videos. Alright, let's get started. We'll start off today here with a 1-inch brush. I'm going to grab some yellow, maybe a touch of yellow ochre, and just a speck of red. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now I've already put some clear gel and white up here on the top of the canvas. And that's good because that just helps things to blend more smoothly. And if you ever want to get rid of that slippery paint, you can simply wipe it away. It's no big deal, which we will probably be doing. Yeah, there. And as we come down, see, I don't really care about the sky being too big. This is the sky. You can barely tell. It's just like glowing yellow, orangey tones and colors. Yeah, it's fine. It's good enough. There really not much is going to even be showing. I will maybe just take a speck of red. I don't really want this to be terribly bright as far as like a sunset. I just want it to kind of fit with the painting. I just want it to be pretty. And so that's what we're going for today. Now, we already had this purple color mixed up, and you're wondering why. Why did I already have that purple color mixed up? It's because somebody changed their mind about what color the sky was going to be. It was originally going to be purple. So, well, anyway, now the sky is yellow and my background mountain range is purple. How does that work? There. I think I'm happy with that choice. I think that works. Now that's really kind of subtle, but subtle in this case is a very good thing. You don't need to overdo the background. We want the emphasis here to be on our beautiful birch trees, which are coming up shortly. I'm going to take that just a little bit below halfway. So there's our little mountain range. It's probably covered in birch trees too. It's just so far away. And then honestly, you could take this and sprinkle it up here. Just give yourself a fuzziness, kind of a hazy color. Oh, it's pretty. I think we can really work with that. So as you can see, I'm finishing up just a basic sketch here. This is my little river or creek, in case you can't tell. You probably can't tell. It looks like mush, but that's okay. And we've got kind of like these little eroded banks, which are exciting. All right, now with that kind of bobbly explanation finished, let's get us a beautiful kind of a yellow ochre golden color. Not too golden yet. We'll get there, but just not yet. All right, let's see. I'm thinking somewhere right up here at the top. I'm just going to use overlapping strokes, and we are probably going to cover up most of our background, most of our sky, and that's why I left some of that blank. There. I gotta say, I like having this new camera, but I gotta be careful to be looking at the painting and not looking at you when I'm talking and painting and mess something up. That would be funny. Okay. That looks really decent. Let's see, maybe up in here. You can just literally with this kind of golden color go over anything, any of these areas. It's gonna look amazing. Maybe a little more ochre. See that? I'm just using big broad strokes with the filbert brush. The filbert brush is so fast and so easy for something like this. And you can go back and detail it out with the detail brush or just something to make it look less messy. There we go. I like it. I think we can work with that. Yes, it's already, what are we, 1 minute in? I'm already excited. This is going to be a good day. There, leave plenty of those pockets of negative space. Those negative areas are really beneficial. Really, really beneficial. They make your painting pop. Now you see what I did there? I just grabbed a little bit of our cad yellow. That cad yellow, so pretty just by itself, kind of mixing with whatever's here in the sky. That's good. You might as well get the bright colors in first. Get those bright ones in, because then you can always add your dark colors right over. It is not a big deal, but it's very hard to get the dark colors over the light colors. Sometimes it can create mud. There. So it's a little bit of a backwards way to go about it, but I think for this case, it's most likely going to be a little easier. Now, that's probably enough. As we work across, I will go ahead and start hitting umber and then greens. This is not all, it's not all like autumn colors. Yes, it's definitely autumn, but maybe it's just starting to turn. In fact, I can't wait to see your version. But me personally, I want some greens in mine. So now I've got a shop towel, and the next step is to just take some of this paint off. Now, if you spent your time, spent your time. Yeah, it's one of those days already. If you took your time, if you took your time and made all these leaves perfect, then you could just take your shop towel and lay it flat on there, walk away for about 20 minutes, and you'd be good to go. But because I didn't take my time and I threw it on really sloppy, I'm going to show you how to fix it. You just take your shop towel and literally just press it like this. This is doing the same thing that leaving it there for some time is doing, because you're kind of grinding it. See that? Kind of grinding it. But again, you end up messing up these edges. Well, if you don't like your edges to begin with, what does it matter if you mess them up? That's kind of my thought, at least. It just gives us another layer of, honestly, texture. Not in a bad way, because there's no texture in this shop towel. I would not do this with a paper towel, because it will leave logos. You'll have somebody's brand just plastered across your painting. I don't want that. There. But see that? We're just starting to absorb that. Now, you probably want to ditch that, grab another one. The last thing that you want is to take that muddy color and bring it back up into the beautiful sky area. So let's go back up to that beautiful sky area one more time. Make sure we get all that paint off that we can. This paint on the canvas is not your friend. It is not going to do anything for you. Get it off. See that? Just mushy. Now, I don't want to lose my negative space, so I'll work around that. But I'm just going to absorb as much of this here as I can, and I'm going to purposely mush my colors together. And you see already we're getting a better effect. This is similar to when you put grass, which we're actually going to be doing. When you put grass down, this is a very similar effect, because you put it down really loose and then you blend it. This is more or less blending it, but we're more importantly removing that paint so that we can put our birch trees on here, and they won't be green birch trees. Now I'm going to take a 1-inch brush and I'm going to do something that's very similar to that step right there. That step, painting the leaves, because what I'm going to be doing is painting the grass. Like I said, I've done very similar. Very similar. You just plunk on a lot of color. That's kind of random and doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then from that, you cross your fingers and hope something turns out. Yep, that is the professional way to do it. Oh yeah, we can work with this right here. Good. Now that stream kind of wraps around the corner. I don't know. It's not perfect. We don't quite know what's going on yet. We have room to be flexible if we want to, which is good. Gotta have a little wiggle room. Nice. A couple of orange hits here and there. And honestly, I think I'd like to see a little umber and a little green in this too. I think it'll make a difference. There. I like that. I like that color. I like the variety of colors. And this is just the underpainting, of course. We're gonna have shadows from the birch trees, which is gonna be amazing. Oh, that's fun. I love cast shadows. Some umber there is my dark. Plenty of umber is going to be up in here, so we don't need too much umber. A lot of umber in the actual dry area of the riverbed. Great. And some good shadows. The shadows are more important than the highlight, probably. But it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you apply this so much. It's about what you do with it after you apply it. That's going to make it nice. Because at this point, everybody's pretty much looks equally bad, and that's okay. It's when you go to blend it, is where you can make yours look amazing. But mine looks terrible here too. Now I've got a fan brush. I'm just going to lift up. You've seen this done before, I'm sure. This just helps to fluff the grass, create a little better look. Now, this is not perfect. This is not finished in any way. But at least we kind of have a beginning stage of grass happening. There, see that? This is one of those rare circumstances where it actually pays to have more paint down, because it gives you something to fluff. Yeah, see that works. But anyway, you get the idea, but this is only the beginning. We have highlights to add, shadows to add, trees. Really, we should get our trees in because then we'll know where our shadows really need to go. But at least we're starting to establish that meadow. It's actually very pretty. Very pretty. Don't go super bright yet because you don't know where the trees are. This is, again, just the underpainting stage. But it's a nice underpainting. You might as well have a nice underpainting, right? Then you don't have to sit there and think, am I ever going to make a good painting out of this? It just already looks kind of good. And you put your highlights on top, and that makes it pop. Now I'm just creating kind of a river bank. This is finally starting to come together and look like something here. It was a little weird, but I think it works now. I think it works. All right, now that right here, it's an awful lot of riverbank, but I've got an idea. I want to make kind of a center of interest birch tree, maybe one that just comes straight up, but it's like almost falling down. I think it'll be interesting. So we'll do that there. I'm going to add a little grass in preparation for that birch tree. So we know it comes down like this, but then maybe like right here, there's a little patch or a spot, if I can even speak, of grass, just like that. And then it goes back, kind of transitions back into this stuff. Does that make a lot of sense right now? Probably not. Will it come together? I sure hope so. If it doesn't, it'll turn into how to fix your mistakes. And that's okay too. But for now, let's just think about and just, plan out maybe the birch trees right here. I just want this. I want this because it makes the painting more interesting. Anything I can do to make the painting more interesting, I'm going to try to do it. So hopefully this works. If it doesn't, we'll fix it. Maybe, I'm not too sure. Maybe, I don't know. We'll figure it out. But this is going to be a little different. Next, I'm going to mix up just a simple purple. Nothing too crazy. Just something. Honestly, however it turns out, it'll be fine. Got a little mud in there, which is also fine. Okay, we're going to work with that right there. And I'm thinking that we go with some birch trees right in this area. Now, I like to paint my birch trees in with a soft, fairly light purple to begin with. And you put your darks in, the classic dark birch tree spots. And you can also put, just darker shadows in if that's what you want to do. But I suggest, painting them in something like purple or gray. I think purple just adds a little more interest, but you certainly don't have to do purple. It's up to you. Now, on these lighter ones, I think it would definitely be in our best interest to go ahead and skip some areas because we don't want that yellow to become kind of brown any more than it is. We got it just the way we want it. We don't want to add to it. So go ahead and just skip some areas. There, I think that looks pretty good. There, we'll refine it more later. This is just the beginnings of it, but I like it. I think it works. So now I'm going to take a little bit of yellow and white. This is just leftover. I will add just a speck, not much, of our red just to warm it slightly. Okay, something like that's good for starters. Now, our last area, this is completely dry, no medium or anything down here. I'm going to just think about highlight here in the water. Just try to get that established as best we can. While we're at it, we'll probably get us a little bit of a shadow purple tone happening in here as well. Now, not everything goes right the first time. If you've ever painted before, you may have experienced that. Maybe not, who knows. But I decided too much brown. So I replaced some of that brown for purple, and look at the difference. It's so pretty. And I think that ties in better with the overall colors, just stuff that's happening. So very happy with the way that came out. And then if you want to go back to the brown, we can add in just little touches of that brown just to represent these little cliffs, but not nearly as excessive as I had before. So I just wanted to point that out that, I did something here that I wasn't super pleased with. And I wanted to point out that it's well worth changing it if you're not happy with it. Because let me tell you, things don't always look as good on the canvas as they do in your mind. Sometimes things look better in your mind than they do on the canvas. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with what you're doing. It just happens to everybody. There. So to me, that is a lot more controlled, a lot more simple, and more, it just looks better. So now I've got my 3/4 brush. Again, I'm just going back here and applying some dark around these trees. It's much easier to go ahead and get your light trees in and then paint the dark afterward around them. Even if you mess them up just a little, still easier. There, it's not necessary that it needs to be perfect. In fact, you can see if you look closely at that canvas, you'll see how little texture is on there. That's a good thing. If you had a lot of texture, this would be a little more challenging, but because there's so little, this is not very difficult at all. Because the more texture you have, the more paint on the canvas, the harder it is to layer. Each layer gets really muddy. That is not something that we want. So anyway, there you go. You could actually, I was thinking about using the little 1/4" brush. This would probably be a better use for or better situation for a 1/4 brush than it is for the 3/4 brush, but well, this one's in my hand, so it's just what we're going to be using, I guess. There, less and less and less as you go up. I don't want to go into my light areas because probably contaminate it too much. Just stay more in these mid-tones. And if you mess up a tree, oh well, paint it back in. It's no big deal. Gotta have fun. If you don't have fun, you go crazy. Even when you have fun, you can still go crazy. So that's just something, it's just something to watch out for. Now I'm going to mix up some white and yellow ochre. I went and got some more. It helps to actually have paint, doesn't it? Not too much of the yellow ochre. We want these to appear white, but it's finally time to go ahead and, let's start with this big one. Go ahead and start working on these trees. Now, the secret to painting birch trees, just like painting anything else, if you're going to do it all at once with oil paint, is to, can you guess? Make sure there's not too much paint. Wipe that area off with a shop towel if you need to. Because the worst thing that can happen here, the other thing, wipe your brush off on your palette and then go to reload it. It keeps your paint a little bit brighter longer. So, kind of highlight this tree trunk there. Maybe stop right. You see, I kind of gave it a nice little flare out at the base. It's kind of cool. But we're going to do all the trees all kind of at the same time, if that makes sense. So I'm going to highlight all of them rough like this, and then I'll go back and detail all of them at the same time. It just makes things faster. You certainly don't have to do it that way, but it's way faster and more efficient. And sometimes it's worthwhile to be efficient, because that way you spend more time on the details and less time on the stuff. Just the simple steps. The stuff that's not quite as important, which, let's face it, slapping highlight down the tree is not that big of a deal. But detailing the tree in the foreground is more important for the actual image. So there you go. It's pretty. Actually kind of has a reverse taper there, so we'll flare that out. You can do that with the light color. It's a birch tree. It's white on both sides, just a little brighter on one side than the other. Now I'm going to carefully mix up a little bit of a bluish color. Carefully, only because I don't want to get this yellow. I'd like to see it more of a true kind of a blue color. I do a little red in it just, again, to help promote it not being green. With this much green and black going on the palette, it would be very easy to have that work its way on into this color, but I want it to be distinctly different, if it makes any sense. I think it does. We're gonna give it a try. All right, I'm thinking right up here. I want that nice blue, because there's some amount of blue up in here. Not too much blue, so, maybe we'll go kind of, okay, there's really no blue. There's a little purple. I'm all over the place today, and that's all right. Some days are like that. I'm gonna go just a little more purple. That's pretty. Perfect? No, it's not perfect, but it's definitely giving the impression that I want. It's giving that feeling. And honestly, birch trees, especially, more than most other kinds of trees, don't happen in one step. They don't look good after just one step. It requires all of the steps in order to get the final product looking the way that you would expect it to look. That's true in everything with painting, but more true in the birch trees than in lots of other things. So anyway, we will go ahead and continue to apply the shadow kind of on the right side. And this way, we will make the trees look just a little more 3D. And the fun part is when you go to put the really dark black spots. That's where it really starts to look good. Definitely got to do some of that. Now we're going to put some detail on these trees. Love it. This is my favorite part, as it probably is your favorite part too, of painting these birch trees. It's where you get to see your hard work pay off. Not that this was terribly difficult. We were not very precise. And you'll see some of them kind of look a little weird. And I'm okay with that. It's less important that you have perfection all across the trees. It's way more important that the placement is good, that they're fairly different, broken up, and random. We get a lot of nice darks here at the bottom. I like the way that looks. Even a little red. Just to warm this one up. This one's in the foreground. A little red won't hurt. I'm not using black, by the way. I'm using kind of a dark muddy color that I happen to have. But that is giving me a little more interest than black alone. Black is good to darken it, but we don't have to, but it's nice to have a little bit of extra stuff going on. Well, now it's time to start working on some leaves. So for that, I've got some yellow ochre, and a little bit of white cad yellow, just stuff that's maybe a little darker than the stuff in the background. That way the leaves that we already painted first thing, those will kind of glow and almost look backlit, silhouetted, but not really silhouetted, but backlit, yeah, definitely. We don't get extra points around here for the right terms and whatnot. It just doesn't make the painting better. What does make it better? Contrast, thinking about all that good stuff. All right, let me see. Just pretty much going to play around with these tones. I went ahead and squirted out some yellow down here toward the bottom of the palette, and that helps. That helps get a little less, muddy things happening. We have to paint the grass. I'm excited for the grass. The grass is really going to make this. It's going to make this whole thing come to life. I think it's going to be interesting. So in the shadows, they're going to be good. There. Yeah, I like that. Those comma strokes are good. If you need to practice comma strokes, because they will get you a beautiful tree with not that much effort. It's not a lot of effort. You can almost just kind of let it fall out of the brush. Not to sound silly, but it's kind of how it happens. There. I do think that looks good. Smaller the strokes, usually the better it looks. Until you get to the closest trees, then you can go a little bigger, but keep them nice and tight in the background. You will need to paint a little slower to get them smaller. That is the trick to that if you're struggling to make them look good. The other way you could think about it is kind of like X strokes. Overlapping X strokes like you would use in the background. It's a very similar stroke. I like the purple. Speaking of which, I like the purple behind the yellow. That's so pretty. It's those complementing colors. Now we do get bonus points for using complementing colors. It makes it look like we know what we're doing. There. I think that works. What's actually great is these trees are so predominantly purple in the shadows and in the midtones that when I go over them with the yellow, it just makes a brown. It really doesn't make much of anything, which is excellent. If these were heavily done with a lot of ivory black or just colors that are not purple, then you would struggle as you paint over them. But this works. These colors are working, and it's starting to look so pretty. So pretty. But look, just a few strokes is all it takes. If you skipped the background step, then this would take thousands and thousands of comma strokes. But because we did the background, we need less than half, maybe like 1/4 of the amount that we would have needed, if that makes sense. Now over here, actually, I do believe we need more, because this area didn't come out quite as finished looking. So we need more leaves We'll spend a little more time to make this area look complete as well, but just something to think about. Remember, our light's coming across like this. We'll add those shadows soon in the grass. Well, look what I did. I couldn't quite figure out how to improve on this area. I've been thinking about it for a little while. Then, as I was standing back right about where you were looking from, I saw that a tree, a big tree, making one of those trees just big. I just went right over it, as you can see, and honestly I blended the background right into it, and I think that's okay. Almost looks like a highlight and a shadow. I would have cleaned it up more if I thought it needed it, but I purposely am kind of leaving it the way it is. I think that it's interesting as is, so why mess with it? Sometimes things just work out. Okay, so we got the little dark spots, which are starting to look more detailed that way. And we'll probably want to detail it to the similar level as this one, but it maybe won't be quite as bright. Anyway, there you go. Looks good. Wipe out that brush. You could use this brush, you could use a different brush, doesn't really matter. I'm going to go ahead and just continue with the detail brush since I have it in my hand. And I'm going to very carefully highlight because I don't want to make mud. So I got more. This is the secret. More paint than brush. It sounds funny, but it's true. There, good. As much paint as you can get on that brush is going to make the biggest difference for not creating mud. Now I'm going to carefully work on the shadows here. It doesn't take much, really. The grass was mostly there. It just takes a little more effort in the shadows. So I did a quick 2-second highlight there, but I'm going to be, kind of a less is more approach here. That's what I'm going to be doing. And I'm going to, for the most part, try to not mess up my trees there. But you see the light's just coming across. Trying to keep these, this one here is a little weird. Trying to keep these shadows fairly consistent. You're not going to be able to, maybe you can. I'm not able to keep them all perfect. If you traced it out, it's not completely accurate, but it's close. Place a little highlight there. See, it's super easy to come back with a filbert brush and add in these little touches of highlight, which actually make it look more realistic. Because that fan brush is kind of big, and in these smaller areas, it'll add more than you wish it did. So this is a good way to go back and fix it. Yeah, I think that works. You can even get in here with the detail brush. And if you want to just add a little shadow here, maybe to something like this one, you can. Just with the detail brush. It's pretty subtle. Again, it's not perfect. It just gives the feeling, and that is all that I care about. Now I'm going to go ahead and mix up a highlight color for the land area, the little cliffs. Is it just me, or is my palette worse than normal? It seems just a lot dirtier than normal. All right. That kind of looks good, doesn't it? It's kind of sunshiny. Yes, that is a proper term. Good. I kind of like it. What do you think? I'm like, yeah, I should probably get back on that brush. A little further back, a little looser. Better things will happen that way. When you're too tight, it just falls apart. When you're nice and loose, you can surprise yourself. All right. These little rocks here need an indication of highlight, or maybe it's just some of the soil here isn't fully eroded. I don't know. I'm putting most of the emphasis kind of in this little section or little patch. Don't you love it when I try to cram two words together that don't belong? Section or little patch. There, a little touch out here, but again, it's getting more subtle. That way it draws your eye toward this area, which is, to me, a good thing. I think it just adds a little more realism when you have kind of your eye drawn into one area. Adds a little more interest, actually, is what it really adds. Good. Oh, that's interesting. See that? Just a few strokes. And you got something to be excited about. There, just little quick hits. That can go kind of overboard pretty easy, that area. So I'm just gonna leave that alone. Looking good. It's okay to have a little texture. People pay extra for that sort of thing. It's an oil painting after all. Have some texture. It makes a difference. Now, one of the last things that we have to do up here is paint in our limbs and honestly the liner brush, all of the liner brush stuff. A little more oil. I like to thin my paint down with just a little bit of oil, but you could use whatever you like. Oh, there we go. So you don't need to go too bright. And what's great about doing limbs on trees in a forest painting like this is it is really impossible to make a mistake that you can't easily correct, because what you can do is just put leaves over it. There's so many leaves that adding a few more isn't going to change the painting in any way at all. So get in here and practice limbs. This is the perfect opportunity. It's not like you're doing a painting where the tree is standing out. Maybe be a little bit careful in this one so you don't have to have leaves too far down the tree, but with the tree standing out in the open on a mountain range all by itself, you know what I mean? It's nothing like that. You can kind of go crazy here and easily dial it back. So just something to note. It's kind of fun to every once in a while have something that is just so straightforward. Got too much oil though in my brush. Great. I like it. It's fun to play around with this sort of stuff. It makes the painting shine, doesn't it? And honestly, I've been adding things like highlight with the liner brush at the end as well, like an accent highlight. So for instance, along this tree trunk here, oops, this liner brush is really old. There. Get a nice, sharp, bright white line. Actually, I think I need some more white paint out. It looks like my white paint's not too white. Yes, struggles at the end of the painting. What are you going to do? It's okay. Yeah, there. But anyway, you get the idea. Some grass can be added too. Doing the same thing. Same thing. Super straightforward on this particular painting today. But see how these little accent highlights with the liner brush sort of clean things up a little? Like I said, I've been really doing it more and more. At the end with the liner brush. I didn't used to always do this. But I just like the way it looks. I think it adds that extra emphasis really easy. Way easier than trying to highlight a third or fourth time with a detail brush or something like that, because you run the risk of getting mud. Here you run the risk of getting mud, but only if you go over it a couple times. Because the paint is so thin, it just glides over this without any issues. Again, as long as you only hit it once. All right, well, I think we're done. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did too. Don't forget to check out our website, DVDs, and brush line. Thanks for watching.